While crews remain hard at work on the replacement of the Lance Corporal Leon Darup's Interstate 70 Missouri River Bridge near Rocheport, this month's Road to Rocheport update features a conversation with a member of MoDOT leadership who has a long history with the current bridge. The Rocheport Bridge was originally designed in 1958 as a continuous two-span subdivided worn-through truss bridge sitting over the Missouri River on Interstate 70. The bridge opened to public travel in 1960 and received regular maintenance, but remained mostly unencumbered for 30 years, until a massive rehabilitation project in the early 90s. Current MoDOT Assistant Chief Engineer Eric Schrader has been with the department for 30 years. Along with time in the Sedalia Project Office and 10 years at MoDOT headquarters, he played a role in the preparation and execution of the Rocheport Bridge rehabilitation in 1994.
So my first time with Rocheport was actually early in my career as a construction inspector, actually on site working with the contractor as we did the project.
Schrader says that after 3 decades of carrying millions upon millions of vehicles, the bridge needed several improvements to remain in use.
Eventually it got to the point where it needed to be painted and needed a new deck completely on it. And we spent an entire summer sandblasting the bridge, taking it back to bare metal, painting it, and taking the concrete deck off and pouring a new deck on it.
As a river crossing on one of Missouri's busiest roads, a major factor the team had to consider on the project was traffic control. Most of the work being done had to be done on closed lanes for the safety of workers and the traveling public.
To do that, though, we had to go with head-to-head traffic, so we shifted all the traffic to one side of the bridge with just one lane in each direction, and they were 10-foot lanes. They were narrow, and we squeezed everybody on one side while we worked on the other, and then changed over, moved them to the other side, and we fixed the other side. We did a lot of notice on way out, around St. Louis and Kansas City, especially to freight, and a lot of notifications, but we did end up with some substantial delays when you take it down to one lane, especially on the going uphill coming from the west.
Of course, with such significant traffic impacts, it was an absolute must to find a way to get the project done as quickly as possible.
We did it in about a year, and we worked round the clock, so one of the requirements was it had such a short schedule was that it took 24-hour shifts. So once we started, there'd be a crew working at night and then another crew during the day. So a lot of times at night we'd be removing the old deck, and then during the day a lot of the painting was done because you couldn't light it up enough well for painters to see. But we had 2 round-the-clock shifts going all summer long to make that happen.
Lighting wasn't the only thing that made the painting portion of the project difficult. The original paint on the bridge was from the 50s, and due to lead paint, needed to be completely removed and replaced.
To get a good paint job that was going to last, another 20 years, we had to sandblast it down to bare metal, but you had to contain all that. You can't just let that fly in the environment. So part of the planning process was how are you going to contain that and keep everybody safe while you do that and get a new paint job on there.
The environment also threw a curveball at the team planning the project 1 year earlier. The flood of 1993 was one of the biggest natural disasters the state of Missouri had ever seen. It closed hundreds of miles of roadways that ran along or near the Missouri River that winds across the state. It also taught lessons that reverberate decades later and are major factors in the current bridge replacement project.
It made us really aware, though, how vital that bridge is, because remember during the flood that became our last link across the Missouri for all of outstate Missouri. You either had to go to Kansas City or St. Louis at that point. Rocheport was kind of the last one standing. So that was in the back of our mind of, oh my God, if this happens again while we're down to head-to-head traffic. But it also reinforced the importance of why do you invest and fix this bridge that some people see as in the middle of the state. It doesn't have a major community right by it. So that helped highlight this is really an important link and made it even more important that we did it well when we did the rehab.
As floodwaters receded, the team kept those thoughts in mind. They also had more work to do than they had originally planned.
Out of the flood, one of the things that really changed was, so there's a large scour hole of water underneath the west end of the bridge that wasn't there when we were planning this originally. So some of the first things after the flood was to make sure the bridge was still stable, and to around the footings of it, that water hole had eroded a lot of the material. So one of the things we had to do on a separate project was to bring in rock and just make sure the bridge was stable, get that part taken care of, and then we went to work on the rehab.
The goal of the 1994 rehabilitation was to create an additional 20 years of life for the bridge. Regular maintenance and some small rehabilitation projects kept the structure usable for another 25 years. But by then the structure had fallen into poor condition, and it was apparent a decision had to be made. Replace the bridge at an enormous cost, or go through another large-scale rehabilitation that would likely cause 3 to 8 hour backups, and only add another 10 years of additional life to the structure.
You can't get as much life. I mean, there is a limit to this. And so, investing a lot of money for a short amount of time, you start going, boy, you're just kicking the can, you're gonna make the problem worse. So that was part of the look of what are all the strategies.
Fortunately, through the hard work and collaboration of federal, state, and local lawmakers and communities, funding for a new option became available. Today, we're less than 1 year away from opening the first of 2 new bridges, one eastbound, one westbound, that will be used to carry traffic in this area for the next 100 years.
So seeing an old bridge go, yeah, they're kind of cool, but at some point, it's cool to see a new one come in and know that we're moving ahead and we're preparing for a bigger system in the future. That was a state of the art when it went up when we built the interstate. That was monumental change to Missouri, was the interstate, and not 2 lanes going through every little town. Now we had 4 lanes across the state. Well, now we're moving to that next to be ready for when we get to the day we have 3 lanes running across the state each way. So that's the nice part of being involved with the next piece that sets us up for the next generation. It is a great reminder, personally about my career and time. Part of the reason I love doing this business we do is we make such a difference for people that'll never know us, right? Nobody will ever know the people that worked on it last time to keep it going, nor should they really matter. But personally, I know it's seeing making a difference, and we're moving ahead.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this look back at a significant time in the bridge's history. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos and updates. We'll be back next month with more updates on the current construction project. You can get the latest updates and even get a live look at the project at modot.org/Rocheport Bridge.